Good morning, folks. My apologies for running a little bit late. Weather's slowing down a couple of board members this morning. It is regular meeting, Danville Architectural Heritage Board, March 21st, 2018 at 9:43 a.m. We've been called to order. First order of business is a review of the minutes from March the 7th, 2018. Do I have any comments on those?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to discuss in paragraph 4, there's a correction needs to be made there. It was pertaining to Hilliard Lines at the last meeting, where I recused myself from the meeting, and it says here that while I was out in the audience, somehow or another I got back up here and made the motion to approve it, which is false. I don't know who made the motion, who approved that, but it wasn't me because I was out there. Do y'all know who that was?
I'm like them. We were talking about, I honestly think it was Vaughn over here that made the motion because he came in right about the time that you left, so.
So that's
Y'all kind of look alike. It's hard.
But we can check with Julie and.
So that's a typo.
We can check with Julie and see,
Yeah.
and we can also look back and.
Well, let the record show that that was not me.
Okay.
We'll correct it.
Okay, thanks.
All right. Any further discussion on the previous meeting's minutes?
Having said that, I move for the approval.
A second.
Have a motion, have a second, further discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None. Duly approved. Second agenda, or third agenda item, election of officers. That refers back to the staff. So, Bridget?
Well, we're supposed to have election of officers annually, and we tried to do it last time, and we didn't have a whole lot of people, and so we just have 4 now, so it's up to you if you want to do it this month or wait, but we do need to get this done to have, we're just supposed to do it annually to comply with ordinance, so however you all want to proceed.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we table this till everybody's here, and whoever's the existing officers are in place right now, let them continue to whenever we elect new officers, if they're willing to do that.
I have a motion to table. Do I have second? Any further discussion? Sounds like a good idea until we get everyone here, or at least more of us here.
Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Great. Certificate of appropriateness, what brought us all in our smiling faces here this morning. So first up is 198 West Broadway, Kentucky Utilities, to replace an existing sign. Do we have a representative from Kentucky Utilities?
They had someone that was coming from out of town, and due to the weather, I guess they did not make it. So I explained to them if they didn't have someone to answer your questions, because they are still wanting to request illuminating the sign, that we would have to move it to we just move it to our next meeting in April, unless you all have.
Any thoughts from the board? I mean, we always try to be business friendly and keep people moving when we can.
Have not we?
I would like to see them proceed with the sign as proposed without illumination. Because that's not grandfathered in, it's not illuminated.
And that after we discovered the sign was not illuminated, it was never illuminated. And they're replacing the entire cabinet as opposed to just the sides of the cabinet. So you have to kind of figure, is it going to be grandfathered in as is? Illumination would be a totally new aspect for that sign.
And my other comment was, are they illuminating the entire sign, or are they illuminating just their logo? Do we know?
It would be, to my understanding, it's a cabinet sign with interior illumination, so I'm guessing the entire sign is going to be lit up, backlit, so.
I'd say either way, if we're taking comments now, either way. I mean, even if they replace the entire thing, if they replace what was there with new materials, that's fine, but our guidelines are no illuminated backlit signs within the historic district.
Would we be appropriate then to push this back to them as not appropriate, so they can be planning?
Joni has explained that to them, but they still wanted to come and make their case to you. So that's why I said if it's okay to move it to the next, see if, give them an opportunity to make their case, but, I mean, it's totally up to you which way you want to.
I've got a question. Have not we approved some other applicants without the applicants being here?
Yeah, but they didn't have, they were easy approvals. They weren't precedent
Is this a
sitting.
hard approval? or
It's
needs-
precedent sitting yet. Precedent
Well,
setting, yes.
well, I guess I'm coming from a different angle. I mean, we've got a viable business downtown who creates jobs down here, creates a lot of traffic downtown. I don't see anything wrong with going ahead and approving this. I mean, if we're gonna be business friendly, what's wrong with approving it?
Well, or denying it.
My
Well-
honest to goodness comment is, if they were asking us to make a precedent, I would really like to have them here for that conversation. And if they're willing to take it till April to table it, then.
Well, I
accept that.
explained to them, unless you all called a special called meeting, the next meeting would be in April, the third Wednesday of the month. So she did not know their timeline for installing the sign, so.
We can call a special meeting. I'd like to see them here, I'd like to see what they want to do. I'm with John, you know, I don't.
I would tend to agree with those that have commented that if we are going to make a special, I think exception is the wrong word, but a precedent-setting situation, we at least need representation of the property owner here
Agreed.
to present their case.
That's
Whether
fair
we
enough.
agree or disagree,
Well,
you know,
and
this
as you
will
look
be
at your
controversial.
guidelines, you know, you need to make sure that you get as much input, because again, it is going to be precedent setting. And you're gonna have to defend it at some point when some other business says, we want an illuminated sign. So you have to move very carefully. And two, I would also, whether you approve or deny, we probably need to deny or approve upon the guidelines. And in one of the staff reports, I kind of walk you guys through what some of the appropriate things to
Yeah, we
either
know what
approve
they're
or
gonna
deny are on. So that would be my advice to you.
Yes, because we have denied businesses.
I make a motion, we table it, and I'm not opposed to a special call meeting either, if
Okay.
that's what you're.
Neither am I.
Okay.
Okay.
So I have a motion to table,
Second,
second. Any further discussion? Those approve of the motion to table? Aye. Opposed?
No.
Opposed?
No, I'll be for it.
Okay.
I'm for it.
So we have 4 and 1.
But we need to go on and get it done for them.
Yes. All right. Moving on to next. 124 3rd Street, Derby Shop. Install a painted mural on the side elevation. And here, who we have representing this project?
My name is Nick Wade, Executive Director of the Heart of Danville. So as you have in your application, we would like to install a painted mural on the side of the Derby Shop building. It's the side that faces the current parking lot and the Chase branch with the ATM installed on the drive-through. You should have a letter by me which details both the artist and the size. The size is approximately 60 feet by 10 feet, and it's going to be done on the lower half of the building. The building is approximately 20 feet tall, so we're not going to go floor to ceiling with it. We're only going to go about halfway. The artist we have chosen is Andy Rudliff. She's a nationally respected artist who's done murals all across the country. Her whole concept are they're community-based murals. So we will pick a theme, and she will have community visioning sessions and receive community feedback on that particular theme, and will then come and design the mural. So it is important to note that the examples that are in your packet are not the mural that we will put on the side of the building. They are examples of her work from other communities.
What's the mural gonna look like?
We don't know that yet. So the whole thing with her is we have to pick a theme, and she will come and have a community visioning session, and then we'll create the mural for us.
And then at that time, will you come back to this committee, or are we approving whatever she wants to put up there, or what?
It is dependent upon how you would like to do the process. So we needed approval first that we could install a mural on the side of the building before we felt comfortable signing a contract with her and contracting the work and having any form of payment. So we could do, there's 2 different options to this. We could do approval for the entire process now and not come back to you with the final product, and just you have faith in us that we're going to like the mural and put it on, or we can do, a conditional approval now and then come back once we have the mural installed, and then for a final approval before it goes up.
Mr. Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion. We approve this applicant with the understanding that before the final mural is placed on the wall, we'd like to see what it is.
I'll second that.
Is that within our guideline, Joni? Can we?
Yes, I believe that you can do that option. I've looked at the building. It meets all the standards for actually
Okay.
putting it on there. But then again, content will be up to you folks. So I think that's a viable option and very doable, and probably help them through the process as well.
I don't see an issue, I don't see an issue with this other than if they put somebody up there on the wall that's, I won't go there. I don't see an issue with this, so I think we need to go ahead with an approval.
Not gonna be your portrait, is it, John? No. Okay, it's a surprise, okay. Don't put that in. I have a motion,
Second?
have a second. Any further discussion?
Obviously, we don't have a question about whether, sorry, I was not wired. I don't have any qualms about, whether this is art. Clearly it is, so, and it's not a sign, we know that. And I looked at a whole array of this artist's work, and it's lively and bright, and I'm sure a lot of people think it's going to be very cool. And I do too, except I think it should be somewhere else other than 100 yards from our central historic district. I would rather see some other kind of art in that space and have this. It seems a little juvenile for Danville. It just doesn't seem right to me.
Well, wouldn't that come under, what she comes up with? I mean, are you okay with putting a mural on that building?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And I just, from what I see of this artist's work, it doesn't seem appropriate. And that's our question.
I think it's
appropriateness.
important to note that the style is the artist's style. So what we have in front of you is a certificate of appropriateness for this artist's mural. I don't think the style will change drastically from what's on the examples, because this is her style and it's what she does.
Do you have
Dave-
another building that's not quite so central to our
No.
historic district?
Not right now.
Well, to satisfy Dana's question, would it be appropriate when you all come back if, say, if one or two of us, well, we don't like that, where do we go from there?
You know, this is all precedent setting, so it'll be, if you don't like it, then the project is done, and we will have to reevaluate the entire thing and look at either, bringing in another artist that suits your style better or finding another location.
Let me be very clear on this. The reason that he needs to get permission from us to get that contract signed is she's going to want money up front before she starts doing design
Right.
work. And so if anybody else has issues about this type of artwork and it being downtown, now is the time to speak up before they start spending money that they might lose.
Good point.
To be honest, I like it. And that being said, is anybody else here to talk about this specific project? From the community, is anybody here to make a specific comment? There's a big old hand back there.
I would like to say I like it. I just don't want it right there.
Yes, sir.
My name is Kirby Stafford. I'm a sign business here in town, and I do a lot of graphic paintings, so this was kind of interesting to me. It's the reason I'm here this morning. And
Kirby, can you speak into that microphone,
sorry.
please? Thank you.
So I agreed with, ma'am, I don't know your name. Okay. I agree with her. The design is juvenile, as she said. I looked at it as like a coloring book. I totally agree that there needs to be something, and some artwork in Danville is great, but that one I'm not sure about, and I don't mean to to make any enemies here, but downtown, I do a lot of graphics in Louisville, and they do. If you look up, in fact, if you'll Google search wall murals in Louisville, there's every style in the world comes up. And some of that style that they're talking about is there. in certain locations, and that's fine. I just, I'm a little concerned about it in that area. But that's just my opinion, that she's not standing alone. Any other questions for me, maybe?
Did she, has she already, Nick, has she, to your point, she's designed these and painted these, so she's got money already into these, and you said, correct me if I'm wrong, you said that it'd be very similar to these?
Correct. Yes, that is her style. That's her artistic style.
Okay.
If you search Google Images, there are probably 30 examples of her completed works around the country.
What she does, what she does is good in a certain location. If you look at those murals that she has done before, there's a lot of several pictures in one area, and she designs each, for each community. Like he said, she would come here and do a community survey time and get some of our interest, and she puts it in the mural. So basically what you're seeing there is what she would do, and I have no problem with that at all. It's just, I mean, even if you want to put it in that location, that's okay too. It's just not my liking. But basically what you're seeing in the examples there is what it would look like. Just if you look real close, it'd be like a horseshoe, I think there, or something like, but it would be more in Danville's interest, the mural.
Well, are we up here going down a path that the next applicant comes in and wants to put the crucifixion on a wall or something that we don't agree with? And I go to staff when I ask this question. Are we going down the wrong road?
Well, it's not so much that you're going down a wrong road, but you are going down a road, because once you make these decisions, they will affect every other artist that comes in front of you. You know, as I've looked at this lady's art, it's very interesting, but she works very organically. And so therefore, it looks to me like it will be a process, an ongoing process, as opposed to presenting you guys, this is what it's going to look like.
I'd like to hear, if it's okay, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to hear from the owners of the building, and since it's their building, and see what they think about this particular
Mr. Stafford,
artwork.
thank you.
In the meanwhile, I would like to say that in my work as a graphic designer, you never do the work in advance. You're always paid up front, but you present what you have done in the past, demonstrate your capability to solve this client's problem. Then if they choose you, then you get like
That's
a
a good
third
point.
down before you, because that is their work. The creativity is the work. So that's an appropriate approach. It's just the style seems inappropriate for this space to me.
Very good. Thank you.
I'm Martha K. Wood. John and I own the building. Y'all are referring to it as the Derby Shop building. It really, we have two buildings, and that is the side of the building where Rags entrance is. I won't explain why we have two names, but that's okay. John and I were approached about this project, and we first were totally unfamiliar with what they might be presenting to us, but they presented to us also some of the artist's drawings. I will say, without any forethought, we were very much in favor of it, okay? Yes, it's not, I'm not an artist, neither is John, so we did not consider that we needed to be an artist to decide this, and so we gave it our full approval. And so we're looking forward to it, and we hope that you know, everyone has a different idea of their art, and I appreciate those who are maybe not in favor of it. But if you're sitting there, all of you, trying to decide, okay, who's the artist and how is she going to present it, or he, then there's a lot of questions there, and I understand that you might consider this a little difficult, but I want to say that we're very much in favor of it.
I'm John K. Wood, and Martha and I, as she said, we're owners. I really hadn't, they just asked us to be part of trying to help the downtown, and that's what we've always wanted to do. And we try to participate and be a good partner with the other downtown. They asked for the use of the side of the building, and if it helps, that's what it's all about. We all work together. So you're looking for a particular art. I'm not an artist, so I can't make a judgment. But we have a system for it, and we're plowing new ground. That's fine. That's good. That's progress. If you all wish to make the decision on it, I have no problem with that. We just kind of offering the space. If that's what helps the downtown, we're glad to help out. So I don't know if you have any questions, but that's just my comments.
I guess, Mayor.
I would like one more comment. In considering this also, I can't imagine that it's not an up deal, because you got a big wall there, okay? It's painted green. It's sort of almost the color of this room right now. But I mean, what can make it better? Art, okay. I can't imagine that this would not be a good deal.
There's a lot of folks that go through the drive-through and cut through there to get to Second Street. A lot of traffic through there, so a lot of people will see it. I'll say that. They see, and you're going at a speed that's not real fast, so people will look at it and they'll go carefully through there, I think, looking at it.
I think where I'm at right now is that it's not in the present that I'm so much concerned about. It's we get down the road another mile and a half or two, and we have somebody that really brings in a controversial piece of artwork, and art is in what's the old saying? It's in the eye of the beholder. Beauty's in the eye of the beholder. But if we go down the road and next year somebody comes along and they've got a controversial project or piece of artwork, and then we deny them, but yet, I support your all's endeavors, what I'm saying, but I'd like to hear from Mr. Planning and Zoning and see what his thoughts are.
Well, actually, this was addressed at one of our meetings when the city lawyer was here, and I made a very pointed question about, is the city commission going to back us up, and who has the final say? The final say in all art and how it looks when it comes to these murals is this board, and the city commission will back up our decision. So we can approve, deny at will, with the support of the commission.
I wasn't at that meeting, but I read the minutes.
I know, that's why I was repeating it.
I did read the minutes, so I'm very much aware of that. So.
And to back up, Mary, that was been a pointed discussion all through this process, through the years, of what constitutes art, who does the approval, does it need to be a separate committee? And that's why we went back to the city commission, or the city attorney and the city commission with that question. How do we handle situations like this?
I want to ask John a pointed question. Do you like it?
John,
Just yes or no? Do you?
John, I'm offering this. We're offering the space, and if it helps the downtown.
Do you like the painting?
And to tell you the truth, if it offends people, you can always paint over it.
But do you like it?
It's fine with me, but I'm not in the.
Honestly, John, probably of all the people in this room, I probably see that wall more than anyone
You
else
probably
here.
you probably do.
Because when I come out my front door, it's like right there.
It's right. There's a lot of people who see it because they get a lot of, as you know, there's a lot of
traffic
folks
through
who
that
go
parking lot, and
who
Third
go
Street
through there.
is heavily traveled.
We want it
I
to be
think-
in good taste, obviously. What is good taste? It's in the eyes of the beholder.
That everyone in this.
And I trust you all to good taste, and
Mr. Chairman, if I'm in order, I make a motion, we approve it.
I think we still
I
have,
think we have, we're still in
We're still in
comments. There's
discussion.
already a motion on the floor.
Oh, is there already a motion
Yeah,
on the floor?
and we're still in comments.
Okay,
And
okay.
I think, I would like to state, I think everybody in this room wants to see Danville thrive and grow. That's why we're all up here and volunteering our time.
I don't think any of this should be interpreted as negative.
No,
This is a
and
first
I'm-
step of a process we've never gone down before.
My
So
husband is
be-
an artist, I'm an artist,
Then I call for the
studied art.
question.
I mean, I'm all in
We
favor of
we have
art.
one more.
Oh.
Hi, I'm Kate Snyder. I'm on the board of directors of the Heart of Danville, and I work for the Community Arts Center. And I just wanted to, two things. I wanted to echo a little bit just of what Dana said about how the artistic process works when you have projects like this, just kind of as you are considering further, that most of the time, when you are going to be presented probably with a certificate of appropriateness request for something like public art, you won't have an exact picture of what the finished product is going to look like. Brandon's mural that we proposed last time was an exception to that rule because that artist was already on the staff of the art center, and so we were able to invest that time in creating an exact example of what we are going to do. Most of the time, as Dana mentioned, you're going to be presented with examples of past work and sort of a general idea of where it's going, and that's going to kind of be the way that it unfolds. And you can be confident that it's not going to be completely different. And they've said the work that Andy does, I think you can be fairly confident of what the feel of that mural would look like. It is not suddenly going to turn into a Monet painting overnight. This is what she does. And I think that that this is definitely something that's hard, and this is new territory because of that question of how relevant is our own personal opinion about the artwork to these conversations. And I would argue that it's really not particularly relevant because art is so incredibly subjective in terms of there is no single piece of artwork that everyone in the entire world is going to universally think is lovely and beautiful. That's not what art does. I said, personally, I don't like the Walking Dead mural in Florence. It's not my thing, but I would certainly never suggest that it shouldn't have been put up or that it wasn't done well. I think what a governing body can look at is things like, is there a maintenance plan? Will high quality materials be used? Is the artist being contracted as someone who is professional and who has a track record of executing high quality work? Those are things that we can look at. The content of it is going to always be difficult, but I do think it's something that I think looking into, do you like it or not? I'm not sure that that's going to be a useful thing to guide these discussions because it is such a personal opinion to each person in the room. And if you survey the room, you're going to get a lot of different opinions. And I think that's true no matter what you put forward. I think that there will come a time in Danville where someone puts up a piece of art that a lot of people hate, and I think that that's totally okay. I hope it's not this piece because I think it's actually pretty cool. But I think that somewhere down the road we're going to cross that bridge, and if we're making all of our decisions out of fear of that moment, Danville is not going to move forward in the ways that we are hoping that it will.
Mr. Chairman, I got a question for staff. It's if I own a building downtown and I want to paint it, I'm allowed to paint it any color I want to paint it, correct?
If it's already been painted, yes.
That's correct.
If it's already been painted.
Yes, sir.
So theoretically, the K-Woods could say, we want to paint this building and we're going to paint it that way. It's their building. They don't even have to come for us. If they're going to paint that building, that's part of the building, isn't it?
Painting and a mural are kind of, they're two separate
But paint's paint.
There's one color and then there's a multitude of colors.
Right.
Well, there's buildings downtown that are multiple colors.
Not like this. And if the distinct difference, and if you are saying that the paint on a wall like that is the same as a mural, we can have a much larger conversation after this, meeting.
But I go back, if I might look at that wall and say, that's beautiful artwork. You know, there was a play in London, England called...
If I can ask a
wait,
question about the actual project, that would be fabulous.
Can I?
have to call us back to order.
No. I want to bring up a point. There was a play in London, England, and it was called Art, A-R-T. 3 people were in the play, and it was nothing more than a blank white wall, and that was their artwork. So my point is, the K-Woods could paint that wall any color they wanted to, and it's part of the building. Am I not right?
I think we're getting off on a tangent.
What we have to do is make sure that we come back to the design guidelines.
Right.
And we have specific things in there that address the questions and things you're talking about.
Right.
So you need to make sure that when you're making your decision, you're answering all these questions that Joni's outlined in your COA that are in the design guidelines. And yes, we are kind of getting off track of that. So if you want to address specific things that's in the design guidelines, we need to look at that because
Right.
that's where the decision needs to be made.
If you guys,
And some of the things Dana's talking about are referencing things that are outlined in the design guidelines that you all need to answer as a body.
right, if you will look at your staff recommendations, because I think what everybody's hung up on is content at this particular point. And the design guidelines do address content. In section A of 6.33, it I'm sorry, Section B, it talks about the compatibility of the art within the fabric of the district. And also, as I've wrote some recommendations for you, the design guidelines on public art specifically say, should be sensitively integrated into the fabric of the community so as to enhance rather than detract from or diminish the inherent qualities of the historic district. That's on page 100 of your guidelines. Also, I think in favor, because I'm not advocating one way or the other, there are other things in your guidelines that say that the design must be unique to Danville and relate to the heritage of the character in the community. And I think what they are planning with some of their input would help you all go through this process as well. So you have leverage in both of your guidelines to say yes or no, that you can move forward on the process. The content is the hang-up, and I would strongly advise to look to the design guidelines as you make that decision.
Do we need to revisit back how the motion was worded?
I do not.
Tiffany, can you read it back? Did you get the motion? Can you read back the original motion that they, in your notes?
I had that John approves the COA, but wants to see the product before it is put up.
And we have,
And Vaughn seconded it.
and we have a motion, we have a second. We've had continued discussion. Nick, do you still have a question?
No, I thought Mary Gerard had a question.
I did have a question relating to the timeframe. It looks like it's scheduled to be up for 10 years with a couple of touch-up periods. It is, however, on their building. What happens if the building gets sold?
I think this is precedent-setting territory, and we don't have an answer for that. As someone said before, it is paint, and so if the new property owner does not like the building, then we could always just paint over it.
Specifically, I think they would paint it.
Right.
Not that that would be because I want to be clear, I don't think that would be a responsibility of the Heart of Danville
No.
with putting the project forward. That if a new building owner decided that they hated it, I think it would be on the building owner to paint over.
I disagree with that. No, I don't think it would.
So if you bought a building and it was a color you
Go on.
didn't like, back to your sort of paint example, then if you bought a building and you didn't like the color, would the previous owner be expected to fix it?
We're talking about another organization, the Heart of Danville, involved in this, and they're ultimately responsible for all of it, whether once it's on there. Am I not right?
Well, technically.
Technically, the building
I was
owner is
asking
responsible.
Nick,
Oh, I'm
am I
sorry.
not right?
No.
Technically, the building owner is responsible, but this is a joint effort between an organization and the property owner.
So the question I have here, let's say a year into this, we approve it, it gets painted, a year into this, and the K-Woods are going, ooh, it just really doesn't match what we like. Are they free to paint over that mural?
It's their
Yeah,
building.
once the artist is paid, it's
Not saying you should, but.
ours. So, we theoretically, we could pay an artist to come do the mural, and then as soon as the artist leaves, paint over it. Theoretically, we could, because the project is done. The artist's work is
Kind
done.
of silly, but.
Correct.
Legally conceivably possible.
Correct, yes.
Okay.
There is no contract that the mural has to stay up for X number of years.
Call for the question.
Call for the question.
I want to say one other thing, and that is, it is true that not everybody's going to like it, and that's not the problem. I think what we need to consider is that this represents our community. So we are looking at our overall impression that we want to project into the world as an identity of Danville, similarly to the one that was selected for the Community Arts Center. It's that same kind of question. It's not a logo, but it's a representative image, and you have to decide whether it's in keeping with not only who we are, but our aspiration.
I have a call for the question. Motion, anyone have a question on the motion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No?
Looks like a four, you were four, we have a 4-1. So it looks like the motion's approved. Look forward to hearing from you in the future.
So they will be coming back for approval of the actual mural.
That's correct.
Okay.
I really don't like it. I
All right. Who thought we were gonna have that much discussion on that subject?
I knew you would.
Hey, we're setting precedents.
I did just want to mention real fast, we gave you a copy of the maintenance plan that's going to go with the murals, just so you understand. And John, it makes it very clear on there, the property owner is responsible for what's happening to their building, and that's the way we address any issues in codes enforcement. So if something's not done by the Heart of Danville to that building, as an example, then we will go back for the K-Woods. And if they're not compliant, they would be the ones getting cited, not the Heart of Danville. So I don't anticipate that happening, but that's just the process.
And I do want to thank everyone who spoke up, the K. Woods, Mr. Stafford. Appreciate this community input. Moving along pretty quick, Vaughn. Number 5, streamlining the COA process.
Yes, sir. You should have in front of you my proposal. It meets our ordinance. I've talked to the certified local government folks in Frankfurt. It totally is in compliance with our ordinance. You have in front of you also, hopefully, Appendix D, which specifically states what can and cannot be approved by staff. I would propose that it would be more business-friendly. It would help move this process along some and hopefully make the COA process a little less unpalatable for folks who have to go through it. Now, saying that, there are some risk in staff approvals. Obviously, if someone disagrees with my decision, it would have to go in front of you folks, and ultimately, if someone disagrees completely, it would have to go in front of the city commission. I'm pretty cautious in these things. I think if there's any question at all, I would refer it to you all. But if it's something very simple, like putting up the appropriate signage in a replacement area, I don't think that that would be a problem. My plan would be within 24 hours or 48 hours of that submittal for me to let that applicant know whether they're going to have to go through the process of going in front of DAHB. And then at that point, at our regular meetings, I would present to you all of the staff approvals that have come through the door, that have either been approved, denied, or sent to you. But in the end, if there's any problem, it's going to end up in front of you guys.
In my recollection, that's almost why we have you here now.
Well, it kind of is, right?
This is a process we've been
One of the many
pushing
reasons.
for years.
So, and
Absolutely, for
I want to be a friend of the business, and I've been out handing out our nice packets about how to do things and talking to business owners within the district the last couple of weeks and trying to get my face in there so that they feel comfortable coming to me before they make the application and saying, hey, what do I need to do here? What's going on? And that, I feel like that is part of my.
It has been a
duties.
movement by this board for years to try to make this process a lot more user, consumer, business friendly.
Sure, and we want to do
And I think
that.
this would be a step. Mr. Hunter, would you like to make a comment on this, or I'll put you on the spot? Yeah, I know you weren't prepared, but if you would.
Love to have
While he's coming, I'll
Love to
just
have
say,
your input, sir.
Comment, actually, funny enough, Joni and I talked, and you guys may or may not know, but for 20 years, where I came from, the Historic Preservation Board was under my umbrella in my office, and I had staff member, came from City of Chattanooga that was my historic preservation planner. And we did COAs out of my office, and we did exactly what she's describing. We did in-house approvals. We split them a little different, and our process was a tad bit different, but it did streamline COAs when you've got maybe 30 a year, something like that. There's an upside and downside, though, and I'll just tell you, the upside is it's more business-friendly. They're pretty cookie-cutter for the staff. We can do them in typically one day. The downside was most of them were staff approvals over time, and so our board tend to not get many cases and started to lose a little bit of continuity of being a board, because the way we split them was the staff did signs, fences, minor alterations. We never touched windows because they're always controversial. And then the board did demolitions, new construction, windows, major alterations. Those are all formal. So what happened in the course of a year, we may not get any of those. So the board maybe didn't have any cases to review in maybe 1 or 2 years, and maybe we did 60 staff approvals over 2 years. And so the board then, again, lost a little continuity of having hearings because we were approving, because 90% of what we did were signs downtown. So we would just approve those in-house in about a one-day turnaround. Now, we charged fees for staff approvals and full applications. We did them a tad bit different. We also, the staff approvals were not appealed to the board. all appeals went to circuit court. That's how we did it. It's a tad bit different. That's just the way our attorney advised us, that we're gonna treat them like a zoning overlay. Everything goes to circuit court. So when the staff made a decision, it was an up or down decision with an appeal to court. The cabinet or the Heritage Council wanted us to do similar to what's being proposed, which was when we did staff approval, if our decision would have been a denial, then it went to the board. And we kind of felt to be business friendly, it was an up or down decision. We'd tell them no as quick as we'd tell them yes. But what happened was, what they wanted us to do is if it was a yes, we approved it. And if it was a maybe or no, it fell back to the board. So it kind of, over time, evolved, and it ended up being a very similar process to what Joni's just described. That's exactly what we did for the last 10 years, and people seem to like that. Again, the disadvantage was we made several decisions on signs that maybe didn't sit well with some of the board members, and some of them thought, well, in that situation, we want to weigh in. So we had to figure out a way to get them to you guys, and this, her kind of way to lay this out kind of makes sense.
So what I heard you say, if the applicant went before your staff and they disagreed with you, then they had an appeals process to go to the board. Is that
We
right?
eventually changed it,
In
yeah.
circuit court, in this case, it's the board.
Initially it was
Well,
circuit
why
court.
would you, and I
Go
know
ahead.
we're talking about hypotheticals here, why would you want to go to the circuit court? You got to
Well,
hire
well,
lawyers, and
well,
there's
I'll tell you
time
why.
consuming, and,
Different lawyers are gonna come up with different opinions.
well, that's the issue right there.
Well, we had
You
a
keep the
full-time
lawyers out of the
attorney.
picture, we're better off.
Well, we had a full-time attorney that staffed all 7 of the boards that were under me. And the theory was zoning, the historic district is a zoning layer. And all zone changes under KRS 100, the appeal for any zone change, CUP, variance, goes to circuit court. So our attorney interpreted that the Historic Preservation Board was an umbrella under zoning because it was initiated under the zoning ordinance. And so all approvals in zoning are, in the state law, say they go to circuit court. That doesn't mean we couldn't stick another layer in there, but ultimately that's the interpretation we got. And that actually came out of a court case when we didn't send appeals to circuit court.
In your professional opinion, I still got the floor.
Sure.
In your professional opinion, what's the better scenario? The way you all had it in Bowling Green, or the way we have it up here?
Her proposal is the more business-friendly model, because it gives you guys an opportunity to weigh in, which my board didn't have on some cases. It's the minor stuff. Again, we did fences, signs, and we actually did minor alterations, and then the board defined what those were. And then everything else came back to you guys, and we never touched windows or main doors. Minor alterations were really minor alterations, kick plates, maybe some light sconces, whatever. Everything else went to you guys. We just did pretty much signs and fences, and we had a lot bigger area, so we had a lot of residential fences. That's probably,
You like hers better than yours.
it's way better, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's just, again, the downside is you may look up in the year and realize you don't have a lot of cases anymore unless there's something major. You don't see a lot of new construction historically, so you guys may only see 1 or 2 cases a year that come back to you. Sounds like you see some.
John.
You can't cut zero, for sure.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
The
All right.
ordinance says that you all prepare the list. The list that you have from Appendix D is the one that Alan made up that is in the back of your design guidelines. So that's where the list comes from.
What do we need to do on this? Do we need to approve it?
Well, you need to vote on it because that's what the ordinance says, or Architectural Heritage Board ordinance says, that
Okay.
you may prepare a list of routine alterations that may receive a certificate of appropriateness without a public hearing, ... So, yes, you need to vote on it if you want to go this route. If you don't, that's fine, but if that's what you want us to do as staff, then you need to have a vote on it.
Let me, question.
Yes, sir.
Because I stepped out. The deal is, you all approve or disapprove, and if somebody's not happy, then they come to us. Is that what you're
Yes.
saying?
They would actually have to formally appeal to you all.
Okay.
All right. Any further discussion?
No, I'd like to make a motion.
Yes, ma'am.
I move that we approve as given by the staff, both the Streamline Certificate of Appropriateness and the list of reviews
Second.
And I think it's been a long time coming and very well done, but I have a second.
I'll second it.
Have a second? Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed?
Just note that one of the things that falls under us is going to be installation of all public artwork.
Yes.
Yes, that is correct.
Yeah, well, y'all not getting out of that one.
Oh, no.
Duly noted. Oh, darn.
Before you voted yes.
All right, I believe the ayes have it there. Somewhere I lost continuity and control of the meeting, but yes. Preservation Conference, we have the designee of Mr. Jacob Pankey. Miss Barbara, if you,
Thank you so much. I'm here representing Boyle Landmark Trust in place of Jacob because he is the chair, and he designated these comments about our conference coming up in May, the month of May, Preservation Month. And the reason I'm presenting this to you is the excitement and the gratitude because we have entered a partnership with AHB and Code Enforcement, Bridget, and staff, as you all are helping us with this conference in a major way, and we're very, very appreciative. And CVB is also a sponsor, and they're helping us with it. And I'll give you a little bit of history, but Jacob has outlined what I'm here to present. And it's a little of the history of 2 years ago when Boyle Landmark Trust and the Heart of Danville worked together to bring Mark McDonald in. He's from the Georgia Trust. He's president CEO of the Georgia Trust in Atlanta. And he came in as a result of our previous conference that we had the year before with Heart of Danville, of Daniel Carey, who was with Savannah, the historic Savannah Foundation. And these gentlemen came in to assess the situation in Danville and to talk to us about the future of how to help save, repurpose, reinvest in our historic properties, because Danville, Boyle County, we are now known as historically bold, and we have such history here that we need to emphasize and highlight our history. And instead of losing so many buildings, it was how can we as a nonprofit enable others or help others and educate others to be able to reinvest in our city and our history. And we couldn't do it by ourselves. We needed lots of help. And we, the Heart of Danville organized the first 2 conferences. And then we're now into our 3rd conference, basically, which is what I call a little mini conference, because we're not big, we're kind of whittle. And so, this is moving along. It's going to be May the 24th and 25th. All day the 24th will be sessions put on by Mark McDonald. He'll have PowerPoints. He'll have information. We're breaking it out. We have an agenda that we're working on as to how to effectively do this in increments so that we will present to a very wide audience. This year is going to be presented to an extremely wide audience because we're ready for that. Previous years, we were just getting organized, and we've been working diligently over the last 2 years to get ready for this point. So we're ready for our very next level of communication. And on Thursday, May 24th, the title of our conference will be Reuse, Reinvest, and Revitalize. We have permission. We borrowed that from the Georgia Trust. We didn't think of that ourselves. We borrowed that, and we have permission. And that's what this is about, to reuse our buildings. These are all historic in the historic districts and in the overlays. It's nothing that is out there, just a regular building. So we'll have 3 major discussions. We'll be at Carnegie Library on Center's campus. They're helping us with being able to be there. We'll break for lunch. We'll have a all-morning session, 9 to 12. We'll break for lunch, 12 to 1, and then go the rest of the afternoon till 5 o'clock. And so it'll be an overview of historic preservation topics like historic districts, architectural district overlays, easements, revolving funds, options on properties. Georgia Trust's successes and failures, Mark will alert and also educate the community as well as us how to avoid our first mistake and how to avoid our first failure to try to have our first project be a success. He'll do an overview for the community, explaining exactly what a revolving fund really does, how it works. And it sounds simple, but it is not. It's very complicated. Friday morning, we'll have a light breakfast, which is open to all of these are open to the public. Light breakfast from 8 to 9:30 will be question and answer. All day Thursday, though, will also be question and answer. These are eligible for continued education for certified local governments, which we are. And we're extremely, extremely grateful for this opportunity because this takes us, as Boyle Landmark Trust, our organization is the nonprofit that agreed to opt for this, into the next level of being able to complete our mission. We've been working on it really 3 years, but diligently for 2 years. We met with Joni and Bridget first, Jacob and I did, and explained it to them. Then we met with Jennifer Kirshner and Brittany Adams from CVB, explained it to them. We've talked with Nick Wade and Heart of Danville, and they're not an exact sponsor, but they are definitely a participant. They're who we're trying to be. You are what we're trying to do. So my only other side comments, this was what Jacob had for me to deliver today, but my side comments are that we have worked very, very hard on behalf of our entire city, the historic properties that are here. We've lost some valuable ones, and we're distressed about that because we haven't been able to put together the groups that possibly would save them. We've tried and tried and tried. And we know that revolving funds work. They're in about 60 cities across the United States. They do work for many different reasons. We also have within the structure of a revolving fund, if we don't match a buyer with a seller, there's also the possibility long-term to offer technical grants, technical assistance grants to historic properties, and it would be like what you all do with facade grants. We have that future, say if we can never, ever, ever, ever in our lifetime find a buyer for a house or a building that's historic and match it up with the seller, I like to think that we can do that, but you never know till you try. So, any questions? Personally, I've been a part of all of this for about 20 years, so it is now coming to fruition for me as an individual because I've worked both with Daniel Carey and Mark back in the 90s and the early 2000s on the National Trust Board. And these were just topics of conversation all over the South. And we have such a wealth of history that we feel it's worth, all we can do is to try our best to save it.
Question, actually kind of two questions. I think
Right.
John always has a question.
Good.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm just interested in, are you all involved in any way in the Clements Cowell house that sold back in October? And do you know anything about it? Who bought it? And is it going to be preserved like it is or improved? That's a real historic piece of this community. And do you know anything about that?
I do. I just learned about it.
Can you share that with
I
us?
just learned about the recent, it's public knowledge, it's going back up for sale. And we're going to I'm trying my very best right now, like I'm at home calling everyone I know to try to find another buyer before it hits the auction block. It's going up for auction, but they haven't signed the contract yet to auction it off. I don't want this in the newspaper. That's not my privilege to allow
Well,
that to be.
I think it would make a great event house.
Well, we did too. Please don't put this in the newspaper. I mean, they will advertise it. They haven't signed a contract yet. That's the reason it hasn't been in the newspaper. But I do know all the information about the house, and I've been in it, and I know the people, and I know the story of the land and the property, and it's one we need to save. And I'm right now working, trying to, on the phone from my house, trying to find some people who might be a partner with the people who presently own it, because the people who presently own it can't swing it by themselves. Their other two partners are not willing to pursue the event space, that's what they wanted to do with it. And so these other partners backed out, and it's left within one family, and that family has to sell it because they can't do it by themselves. I'm trying to find people who might be interested in even partnering with them.
Well, that would only be if you own 51% of it. That wouldn't be a bad deal, but you sure don't, you don't.
I was gonna say, John.
See, it would be a wonderful opportunity for us as a revolving fund if we had the money within our treasury to be able to put an option, buy an option on it. An option to tie that up would be very expensive at this point in time because it's a valuable piece of property. And the sellers are obviously wanting their money back out of it, so they're not gonna.
Is that all they want, their money back?
As far as I know, they want to, yes, their money back.
Well, it only brought $365,000, and for 11 acres in that house, I thought it was a steal,
It didn't.
quite frankly.
I don't think the acreage went with it. I think it was sold separately, honestly.
Is there any way that is, let me ask you a question,
It's a
Barbara.
perfect project for us. We're not ready yet for it.
Is there any way that your organization can come up with the money?
If we had a donor out there that liked us a lot.
Do you think if you asked Papa John's that they would
I'm looking at Papa John and he's squirming.
There you go.
He's sinking in his chair. No, this would be a perfect project for us if we were at that level. If we were where Mark McDonald is sitting in Atlanta, they would be on it right now because they have the money. They would have the money, put together to be able. But you also have to have permission from the seller, which I asked them the other night on the phone. I said, "Are you all willing to allow an option?" And the person said, "Not really, because it's too open-ended." Well, it depends on, you define your option. You make an option for 6 months. We couldn't possibly try to sell that house within 6 months. It would
If
take-
somebody bought that house, and how would you all work with that individual or that group to restore?
We would be able to offer the assistance with tax credits, and I know Nick does that too. He helps with tax credits. We offer that service. We have networks all around that can offer all kinds of, there's just no grant money available other than the tax credits nowadays. The grants are just dried up. It's really impossible to, unless we have a very wealthy donor out there that would like to see this happen. And so far, we haven't been able to we weren't able to save the Judge Boyle's house, and we weren't able to save the Fisher Byington house.
John, I'm gonna push you and Barbara offline for further negotiations. How's
Well,
that?
as one member up here, I really appreciate that
Yes.
information.
Yes.
Well, I should not be at liberty to announce it in the paper. I really am not. I could get in big trouble. I haven't
lips are sealed.
said any names, but yet, you'll read about it. If it goes on the auction block, you will read about it. Could I just say one other brief thing about how wonderful the Tom Broach and the city, we've worked with them lots on condemned properties, and our revolving fund has potential to address some of your condemned properties that aren't in, just such horrible shape. That's a lot of our opportunity here with a revolving fund because we can get those houses put into hands of owners that will do something, and it's not the expense that, like the Coel house is, it's such an expense. And then get them back on the tax rolls and get those liens taken care of and help the city with some of their money problems with these condemned properties. That's really one of our goals too. So, thank you. I didn't mean to, I'm between you and the door, so I'm gonna sit down.
Oh, we're not quite at the
But-
end yet. Now, the conference,
Yes.
we
the
would
con-
expect that to bring, because it's gonna be bigger, better, so it's gonna bring people to town. So
It
this
is
is a little
going
bit
to
of an
bring-
economic engine, Nick, to hotels, restaurants and stuff, maybe for a day or so, potential?
Well, we'll see. We're inviting people from all over to come in. We need developers to be interested. There's a group of developers in Louisville that we're trying to get to come, and they all offer advice to us, as well as we're helping them learn more about the potential. And we're in this as a learning curve for ourselves. We're trying to learn from, say, Joni and all. We don't have the answers. That's why we're putting this on. We're trying to retrieve the answers. We're trying to get the answers.
Well, it also let John get his continuing education without having to travel and spend a lot of money, so.
Thank you for listening to me. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes, and I will reiterate that our ordinance, our certified local government agreement, and our bylaws require you all to get 2 hours of training per year. So this is a great opportunity, although there's a zillion opportunities all through the year, but we have members who have not gotten their training. So put this on your calendar, plan to at least go to 2 hours of it so you can get that
On
covered.
this,
We can check you off.
Do we need this in the form of a motion for approval, or is this just FYI?
No, this was just
Okay.
to let you all know, the city manager's already approved the funds that we have.
Barbara, thank you, and thank Jacob. The only other item, it's not officially on the agenda, but Bridget, I'll let you, do we need to?
I don't know if you want to listen to Mr. Barnes. I think he may have a question. I don't know. Do you want to ask them a question, Mr. Barnes? We're not hearing your COA, but if you have a question, if not, we can.
Just one. Excuse me, I'm getting old.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to ask Mr. Barnes a question. Does he know anybody? Is he kin to anybody in the audience? I'm just needling him.
That's right. No, I got questioned about an item that was going on in the front of our building down there. We had to replace some sheeting and a door that was on the front of the building down there, specifically where southern plating is. I did not realize that we had to have a approval from the board here to do that, because we didn't do anything structurally to it. Plus, this is not a historic building. So I did this because without knowing. Ignorance is bliss, I guess. But I don't know, I'm too ignorant for anything. But painting is another thing. We can't paint it right now below 0 degrees. It's been too cold, the paint will freeze. So it hasn't been painted. But the whole building is supposed to be painted this coming summer when it warms up.
Can the staff kind of bring us up to where we're at?
Yes, I went down and looked at the building, and it is determined that they did need a COA. They completely removed the front facade, all the stuff off the front facade and the door, and that falls under the requirements of the design guidelines to get a certificate of application. So we can approve one after the fact, but they still have to go through the process of getting the application.
And right now, we're sitting there with the sheeting off, insulation
No.
exposed.
No,
The sheeting it's all been done except painting.
Okay.
Yes.
So what they'll need to do is present that to you as to what they did, and you'll determine if it was appropriate or not. If it wasn't appropriate, then they may have to go back and fix it to meet the guidelines. I'm not saying it isn't, I'm just saying asking forgiveness after the fact could be costly. So that's why we,
How do we move?
Excuse me, Crit, I think that building,
Speak to the microphone there, Tom.
I think that building's pretty historic. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. No, I know.
Yeah, that's something that,
Best I can find out, it's probably built back in the late 30s,
I'm just kidding you.
early 40s,
I'm
as
just
far
kidding
as the
you.
building was.
It's not,
Crit, what do you really want to do with that? What do you want to do with that? What's your intentions there? I've seen the picture here, but what's the end results that you want to see there?
Just to replace what had rotted out.
Okay.
yeah.
And it's put back just exactly the way it was.
Okay.
So it's a little bit further than a maintenance or repair, which
Yes,
would not be
sir.
an issue.
That would
but-
not be an issue, right?
well,
But
it
they
ain't-
are
it's
in the
not
district, and
historic.
therefore the design guidelines are applied. And
Can't
I've
be.
found that a lot, people are confused that my building's not historic, but you are within the district.
As long as you're in the district.
Yes, that's correct.
It's not new, it doesn't
that's-
matter how old the building is.
that's correct.
As long as it's in that geographic boundary.
That's correct, and that's one of the things I'm trying to do by getting out in the community also to let folks know, just,
What do we need to do to try to help Mr. Barnes get back on schedule or back on track?
we will have this on the next meeting agenda. We did not get it in time to do everything to get it on this meeting agenda, so the
Are we
COA
delaying
will.
any work that he needs to do now? Do we need to call a special meeting?
I mean, we can add him to the special called meeting that we're doing for KU if we do that, if you want us to add that to that.
Yeah,
But,
I think we need to do
Yeah.
that.
I
let's
think
do
we
that.
need to do that, because I hate for his building to sit in a state
well,
of repair.
they replaced the front. It doesn't have that there. They've replaced everything. They just
Yeah,
haven't been able to paint
It's all
it.
done except painting.
They haven't been able to paint it. But what you have to determine was if what they did was appropriate or not.
It's
Okay.
just exactly what we took down.
Yeah.
And I know, but they actually have to officially determine that what you did was appropriate because you're in the historic district.
You'll be okay.
What about the Staten building right next door to it? If they do something to that, do they have to go through the board too?
Yes.
It's a brand-new building.
Yep, just because it's in that district, it could be built last year, but if it's modified or changed, it's got to come before. Sounds a little silly, but it's by
Well,
geography.
I don't guess there is anybody that could be interested in historical things more than I am, especially around Danville. I was sitting here listening a while ago about the mural being painted. To me, the first thing that came to my mind, why go with something off the wall? Why not put something of historical value, like some of the buildings in Center College, buildings down here at Deaf School, anything historical, some of the historical houses, paint that in there, or just a scene of farmland around here. Why go to something that's not even, I consider, of historical significance? That's my thinking. But like I say, I'm not the brightest person in the world. But that's all I've got to say.
Why don't we just put him on the special call meeting, be through with it, and it dries up, and he can paint, he can just move on
Yes.
and do what he wants.
Let's keep him in business, please.
Yeah.
Okay.
And cause him as few problems as we can.
Yeah, the only thing I've got left to do is to paint it, paint the building.
I think you'll be okay.
Too cold to paint now anyway.
Too cold to
so-
paint now
okay.
anyway. It freezes on the paintbrush. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Good to see you.
Staff, is there anything else?
I move we adjourn.
One question, any member of City Commission present today?
No.
Tiffany,
No, sir.
would you duly note, please? Thank you.
No, but we did get a message from the city commission. Part of the reason some of them are not attending is the EDP meeting is at the same exact time as this meeting. So one of the city commissioners asked that. We did pass that on. I did send you that email to let you know why they were not here.
Why aren't they here? I'm sorry.
EDP meeting, it falls at the same exact time as
But they
our
never
meeting
are
on
here,
March 20th.
though.
Yes, they are. We had a city commissioner meeting at our last meeting that we
Oh,
had.
Then I wasn't here.
Yes, that's right.
All right, do I have a motion to
Yeah,
adjourn?
Yeah, I want to duly note that we did save $500 on our deal last time.
Yes, we did.
Okay, yeah,
Motion to adjourn, do I
Yeah.
have a second? Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you all.